welcome to Ballot Meridian election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Julie Dunmeyer. Joining us for this candidate interview is Phil Deschaine, Democratic candidate for Meridian Township Trustee. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself for our viewing audience?
Thanks, Julie. I'm Phil Deschaine. I'm a Democratic candidate for Meridian Township Trustee.
All right, thank you. Each trustee candidate will be given a standard list of 10 questions. Let's get started with question number 1. What qualifications do you feel you bring to the position of Township Trustee?
I have both professional experience and community engagement I think make me a great Meridian Township Trustee. I've got 30 years in the private information technology sector. I'm a software executive for a mid-sized software company. Over the past 30 years, I've managed large budgets and large staffs to accomplish many important projects for the businesses I've worked for. I've also been very engaged in the community over those past 30 years as well. I have raised 3 kids in the township. I have as a coach, a mentor, a scout leader, and other forms of being involved in our great community. Most recently, I've been involved in the Hazlitt Kiwanis Club, and we 8 years ago created the Hazlitt Library Move project and worked with the Library Move team. We raised around $20,000 and helped create a brand new library in Hazlitt for no additional money. Currently, we've got the Flags Over Meridian project. You've probably seen the flags up. We put up almost 600 flags all over the township 6 times a year, and all the money from that goes back into the community. I'm also on the Park Commission, and as Park Commissioner, I've helped redevelop in the downtown area, Ferguson Park and Launch Park with new equipment and pavilion there. To the north of the township, we've redeveloped Hillbrook Park, repaved the new playground equipment, repaved the tennis courts, and Orlando Park has new play equipment as well. Our big project coming up next year is going to be the New Tunnel Road Park, which will have 4 ball fields for baseball, football, and lacrosse. And it's an exciting new park that will give the Hazlitt Schools area kids a lot more, and adults, a lot more place to practice and have their games and other events there. So I've got that balance between the private sector experience and community engagement that would make me a great Meridian Township Trustee.
All right, question number 2. What major changes do you believe residents would like to see in the near future?
Well, I think one of the biggest concerns residents have now is about the blight. We have a lot of blight in some of our commercial areas. Downtown Okemos is not looking good. Hazlitt Four Corners is quickly decaying since L&L moved out, and the Carriage Hills area needs redevelopment. So we've got to focus on those areas. Along with that, I think the townships want us to reject the old simplistic no growth model. That's unfair to new businesses, and it doesn't work. No growth means declining quality of life here in Meridian Township. It's not an answer for the future. We need a balanced approach that's fair to everyone. We're open to anyone that is interested in coming into the township and developing into some of our commercial areas. We have an environmental record here we should be really proud of. We have great parks, great green spaces, but we also have to be fair to all people that come before the township and not shut them down because they represent some type of growth and therefore are bad. That's just not true. We've got a really comprehensive master plan. We've been working by it. We need to stay with it. It's being redeveloped now, but we need to stay with our master plan. And I think the township residents count on us for having a plan and sticking with it.
All right, question number 3. If elected, what steps would you take to address residents' transportation concerns, including Ready Ride services and CATA's proposed bus rapid transit project?
Well, regarding Ready Ride, I support Ready Ride. I support expanding it if possible. The township residents have passed millages to allow for Ready Ride, so I think we need to keep Ready Ride. I do oppose privatizing Ready Ride. We have CATA drivers, we have a surety of their security, and we have ADA compliant buses with Ready Ride, and we need to keep that. At the same time, I think we can do a better job negotiating harder with CATA to get more rides per dollar spent out of CATA. So Ready Ride is a great service. We can negotiate perhaps a better deal, but that's not compromise it by creating a privatized Ready Ride, which would have unknown quality and perhaps some safety concerns for our residents. The BRT is a whole other topic. It's really up in the air, and with CATA's lead person on that announcing her retirement recently, it's even more uncertain. The BRT faced a lot of local business opposition. Several businesses voiced opposition. We need to take those concerns into account. We don't want to have a BRT that is detrimental to our business community. Nonetheless, residents of Meridian Township have for decades supported mass transit in Meridian Township. They want us to have a viable and modernized rapid transit system. So we need to do something. We could staying stuck where we are now is no solution. All you need to look is other communities like Lansing that a generation or two ago was vibrant, and now it's gone into decline. We don't want our township to go into decline. We need to modernize. We need to make sure we are an attractive community, and part of being an attractive community is having a vibrant mass transit system. So the BRT needs to be revamped, needs to be a plan that the business can live with, the residents can live with, and at the same time modernizes our mass transit. So it's a complex issue, and there's no simple solution for it. As trustee, I'll look at it with the other members of the township board, and I think we can come up with a viable plan to move forward with BRT. But the plan as it's been proposed is DOA, and we need a new BRT plan.
All right, on to question number 4. Meridian Township's branding campaign is in its final stages. Once revealed, how do you plan to champion the new brand?
Well, I think it's a great plan. Deborah Guthrie, our communications director, has done a really good job spearheading that. I was part of some of the early meetings on that, and it's exciting. All 3 of my kids went to Meridian Township schools, Hazlitt schools. If you asked them where they were from, they would all say Hazlitt. They wouldn't say Meridian Township. It was an attempt to have a one Meridian identity, and quite honestly, I just don't think that's going to work. People tend to associate where they come from the school district, and we happen to have 2 major school districts, Hazlitt and Okemos here, as well as residents of our township go to Williamston schools and East Lansing schools. So it's a challenge to have a single brand for the whole township, but I think we can do more with that. I know that we have some work going on with it. We've hired an outside firm to help us with our branding, so it's exciting. I think it's, again, part of keeping us a modern, contemporary community is to look at our brand, make sure that people know who we are when we say Meridian Township. But while we're talking about branding, I think the township board needs to be aware of its brand as well. I mean, I think the township board needs to do a great job explaining to our residents where their tax dollars go. And we are very efficient with our tax dollars in Meridian Township. We don't always communicate that to our residents. For example, many people think we pay the highest taxes in the whole region. And in fact, we don't. We pay actually less taxes, significantly lower millage than they do in nearby East Lansing. At the same time, I think the township board brand needs to be a professional one, a civil one. We need to have a board that our residents are proud of and reflects their values. So it's both a township brand and a township board brand that we need to be aware of moving forward.
All right, next is question number 5. What essential functions of the township would you like to see improved, and why?
Well, I think our essential services are police, fire, and EMS. The township recently did a survey of residents, and police, fire, and EMS came up on the top of that list. So we need to make sure that they're well funded, they are well funded now, but continue to fund them at adequate levels. And we make sure that they're the best available to us. We have an excellent police department, excellent fire and EMS service. So we need to continue that and make sure that we're at full staffing for police, fire, and EMS. Other essential services that fall next after police and fire would be our park system. Our parks are very much valued by our residents, and our residents use our parks extensively, and we need to make sure that our parks remain some of the best in the area. But in terms of essential services, they really boil down to police, fire, and EMS.
All right, next is question number 6. How does your campaign best reflect Meridian Township's vision statement as written in the board policy manual, which states, to achieve and maintain the highest quality of life for our residents?
Well, my campaign literature reflects this, and the first priority for me as trustee will be, again, to maintain our police, fire, and EMS. The second item that I think is essential to our township is maintain our outstanding schools. Many people, myself included, moved to Meridian Township for our schools. We need to do all we can to make sure our schools are successful. And it really gets back to opposing the no growth policy. We need to follow our master plan and allow for new development where we can to allow young families to move into the township and participate in our schools. If we're not bringing in young families, our schools are declining, and we don't want that to happen. The third area that I've identified is to revitalize our commercial areas. You know, we've got to do something about downtown Okemos. We've got to do something about the Four Corners in Hazlitt. We've got to continue to work on the Carriage Hills area. Fourth is connectivity. We need to connect our trails. Have a trail from Lake Lansing Park all the way to the river trail, which would go through MSU. And that would, many of our residents would prefer to commute if they can via bike paths, but if you try and take a bike along Grand River Avenue, it's a very dangerous proposition. We need to continue to invest in our neighborhoods as well. And I know that our police department participates in the National Night Out and is at all of our neighborhood association meetings at least once a year. We need to support our neighborhood associations and help them stay strong. Part of that is many issues in many of our neighborhoods is roads, and so we need to do all we can to improve our neighborhood and roads and streets where we can. Largely that's a county funding issue, not a township issue, but the township can contribute some, has contributed some to roads. We need to continue to find what money we can in the current budget to improve our roads. And again, lastly would be the parks. We need to preserve our parks, enhance our parks, and make sure that they remain the real jewel in Meridian Township. We have a great park system, and we need to continue it.
Okay, and question number 7. The township, much like other municipalities across the state, is facing a huge pension liability. What direction would you like to see the board take on pension funding if elected?
First of all, regarding pensions, there's actually 2 pensions. We have our own township managed pension, which is smaller. That one's been managed well, it's doing fine, and we're okay with that pension. The larger pension, most of our township employees are part of the MERS system, which is the Municipal Employee Retirement System. It's managed completely by the state. We participate, but we don't have a lot of control over that aside from participating in it and enrolling our employees in that. MERS is where the problem is right now. We do have a pension liability problem in Meridian Township, around $23 million. Fortunately, we're in far better shape than many other municipalities are with our system. Essentially, we've got to maintain our current commitment we've made to retirees. There's no going back on those commitments. We made a promise to those retirees, we're going to honor that. Nonetheless, we need to find a way moving forward to preserve our township services while keeping the pension liability system, keeping the pension liability from getting any worse than it is now. We can do that. We need to work through with our current employees and find a way to move forward that continues the pension program we have without expanding the pension liability and continue to contribute more to it as we have this past year. We put an additional $1 million into the MERS system. We need to do more, take more actions like that to reduce that liability so it doesn't haunt future generations the way it's hanging over us right now. So there is a way forward with our pension liability. We need to stay focused on it. We need to find money we can to go in there, and we need to talk to our current employees about not letting that pension liability system pension liability grow any more than it is, and wherever possible, work towards eliminating that.
All right. Next is question number 8. How do you plan to strengthen relationships between the township and the business districts to promote growth?
Well, many people don't realize this, but the township already has a full-time employee. His name is Peter Menser, and his whole job is to go out and talk to local businesses. Say, hey, how you doing? What can we do to help you grow? What can help you to expand? What can we do to help you to prosper here in Meridian Township? And that's a great use of our staff resources. So efforts like the one that he is making to work with our small business community is essential. And wherever possible, we need to make sure that the township is focused on those businesses, helping them to prosper, because we need our small businesses. And so that's a great move the township has already made, and we need to continue to do things like that. Because without our businesses, the tax liability is even more on residents. We don't want a situation where it's only a residential tax base here in Meridian Township. The other way we need to change that is to work on the myth that the township is anti-business. And I'll give you an example of that. A few years ago, there was this rumor going around that local Horrocks had wanted to move into the old L&L store, and the township had basically said, no, we don't really want you to do that. And that is completely untrue. But the myth persisted because for past generations, there was more of an anti-growth attitude at Town Hall, and that's since changed. But that myth and that idea that the township is not encouraging to small businesses remains. So we need to counter that. Getting back to Horrocks, for example, many people don't realize it, but the township actually came very close to having Horrocks move into the old L&L. And the township was willing to donate some land, build a park at the interurban path trailhead there, and do all the township was doing all it could to encourage the L&L store. Ultimately, L&L decided not to develop that storefront for now, but the township was trying its darndest to make that happen, and that's what the township is doing now. We need to do more of that, and to encourage small businesses here in Meridian Township.
All right, question number 9. What approach do you propose to address issues such as blight with underdeveloped and or vacant properties within the township?
Yeah, we were the same issue we've just been discussing. Blight is an issue. We've got these big storefronts like the L&L at Carriage Hills and the one at Hazlitt Road and Marsh Road that are sitting vacant now and decrepit. We need to do what we can to redevelop those. I know that the Planning Commission has looked at some plans, including mixed use, possibly making them into some residential areas and more of a park-like residential community than it has been in the past. So the Planning Commission is open to those ideas. The Building Department is working with developers to try and find some areas to redevelop those. In the downtown Four Corners of Okemos, there's been some challenges as well. There have been plans that have fallen through. I mean, we're not the only township to deal with that. Look at the Michigan State issue at Abbott and Grand River. They've had some real challenges developing that for decades now. Part of the problem is the economics have changed, in particular on Grand River Avenue since the recession, the Great Recession of '08, started in '08. Grand River storefront properties have become more affordable. What that's done is pulled down businesses from the Hazlitt Road and up from the Hamilton Road area and put them on Grand River where they have higher traffic flow and made it more attractive to them. The problem with that is it's pulled away from other commercial areas, so it makes it a challenge to redevelop those. Those are factors out of the control of the township, but still the township does have the ability to work with those businesses, to be creative on proposals and find ways to repopulate those commercial areas with viable businesses that are sustainable and attractive to our communities. So there's no simple answer to it. We just need to understand that the fundamentals have changed, and we need to be aware of that and be creative and looking at new approaches to fill up those commercial areas with attractive businesses that our residents want and keep the decay from happening and reversing that so we have viable commercial areas there again.
All right, and the last of our standard questions, what goals would you like to see the township accomplish in the next 5 years?
Well, the first one we've got to take on head on is to address the pension liability issue. If unaddressed, it will only get worse. And so we've got to be able to look at the pension liability and work with our current employees to make sure it doesn't get worse, to have a buy-in from all the stakeholders there. So we've got to address the pension liability. That's first and foremost there. Our residents are counting on us for doing that. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not the only one with the pension liability. Our financial liability is actually less than many communities. That doesn't mean we don't address it. We still need to address it. First of all, as our top of the list of the new board would be to address the pension liability issue. The second issue is to connectivity. We need to really work with the county and get our trail system so we're connected from Lake Lansing all the way to the river trail system, which would mean we would have a cross-township path all the way to MSU. So that allows for greater use of non-motorized vehicles by our residents, enhance our park systems, and make the township more livable, more sustainable, and greener. And it's our green township, environmentally friendly township is a very important priority for our residents. The third is to redevelop the commercial areas, the Four Corners in Okemos and in Hazlitt. We've got to stay focused in those areas and do what we can to redevelop those. There aren't easy answers to that, but if we stay focused on it and we continue to use our building department resources as we have, I'm confident we can do that. Part of that will, of course, depend on the economy. We've had many years of, since that recession, and we've had economic growth, and if that continues, I think our chances of redeveloping those areas will improve. The fourth priority is to update our master plan. Our master plan is what tells us what areas we're going to develop on, which areas we're going to leave as green spaces, which areas we're going to, where the township is going to grow, where the township is going to reinvest in existing areas. So the master plan is very important. It's a task of the township board and the planning commission to develop that, and it's underway now. We need to finalize that, so we've got a master plan moving forward for the next decade. The fifth area I'd like to see us move in the next 4 years is to redevelop Central Park. Part of my time on the Park Commission has been to approve a master development plan for Central Park. Right now we've got Nancy Moore Park, we've got Central Park South, we've got the Historical Village, we've got the Farmers Market. And that's all roughly the same, it's all part of Central Park. And so we're going to have one unified Central Park that's got good signage, open paths, and so people can go into that park without getting lost, raise up the pathway so it's not, in spring and fall, it's not so damp or wet that you can't walk through it. And a really essential part of that redevelopment is to develop a new farmers market. I mean, our farmers market is a huge success. You talk to the vendors and they'll tell you this is the best farmers market in mid-Michigan. And if you go there on a Saturday morning, it's a place to be. It's a fun place and lots of economic activity, lots of great products and produce and foods there. The problem with it, it's too successful, and you have to park a half mile away to get there, and it's dangerous. A lot of cars coming and going, and it can be very dangerous for pedestrians. So the Park Commission has approved a plan to move the farmers market on the other side of Central Park Drive and have 3 large pavilions, great parking, much better accessibility for many of our residents. So that's an exciting plan as well. So we have challenges like the pension liability, but we also have ways to make the township a really great place to live. And the farmers market is one area. Central Park is another area. We have 19 parks in our township, and Central Park is just one of those. And so as we move forward, we've got to fix problems that are there. We need to redevelop our commercial areas, and we need to work on our pension issues. But we also need to continue to do what we do well in the township, which is to give our residents a great place to raise a family, great place to go to a market, great place to recreate at one of our many parks. So we can address our problems, but also we continue to enhance the quality of life here in the township. And we have a great quality of life here. I mean, if you've talked to our residents, most people ended up here purposefully. They came here because they wanted to be here, and they often came here for the schools. So we'll continue to make sure that our schools are some of the best in the state, and that our parks are the finest, and it's a great place to live, raise a family, and start a small business.
All right, at this time, we've finished the standard list of questions with Phil Deschaine, who's a Democratic candidate for Meridian Township Trustee. We have some time remaining. I have some follow-up questions if you wouldn't mind.
I'm fine with that.
What that we haven't talked about that you're passionate about would you like to just kind of give us a little bit more information on?
Well, I'm really passionate about community service, and as Park Commissioner, I helped create the first ever Love a Park Day. And so I think part of the reason our township is such a vibrant place to live is that our residents are very invested in our township. They turn out for things like Love a Park Day. They turn out for the recycling day, which is October 1st, and they volunteer and they make it happen. Township government has very limited resources because of budget. So getting back to parks, we could not keep our parks as sparkling as they are if it were just up to our limited maintenance staff. So when we get volunteers out, improving our parks, enhancing them, that's when they really shine. And so I think the more that we can call on our residents to give back to the township, to give back to our township, the more we'll succeed. We have several great service groups in the township. I'm part of the Kiwanis Club. We have a very active Rotary. We've got a Lions Club. We've got Hazlitt Beautification Association, a Garden Club. The Meridian Historical Village has got a bunch of very dedicated volunteers. Not to mention we have boards within our committees within parks that do lots of things. And so there are tens of thousands of hours donated to our township, hundreds of thousands of hours donated every year to our community. We need to continue to encourage that sense of commitment, have people giving back to their communities. What makes us succeed. It's not government that makes us the great township that we are, although it helps. It's really the residents. And we need to do all we can as a township to encourage that kind of volunteering and giving back to our community, because it enhances our community and it enhances our residents. You never feel more rich than when you give back to either a program or a park or your community. And so by fostering that kind of community engagement and commitment to making us the great township we are, the more we can do that, the better our township will be.
All right, we have a few minutes remaining if you'd like to make a closing statement.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate this time to talk about my experience. Again, I've come from the private sector, but I'm very involved in the community. I am committed to making Meridian Township even better place to live, to raise a family, and to work. We have a great township. We have great potential to be a township of the 21st century. We have our challenges. We have the pension liability. We have our commercial areas to redevelop. But we can overcome that. We are a township full of professional, well-educated people, and we put our heads together and put our hearts together. We can make this an even better place to live. As your township trustee, I'll make sure that we get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. This has been a candidate interview with Phil Deschaine, Democratic candidate for Meridian Township Trustee. I'm Julie Dunmeyer, inviting you to watch Ballot Meridian election coverage right here on HOMTV.